All right, folks. Saturday, late morning, almost early afternoon. Let's see what we can get started. We're off kind of to a late start, but had to take care of some stuff this morning, and it did not allow me really to do any painting beforehand. Not of any count, and I've got a tiny little bit of a headache, which hopefully is on the mend. So I did paint a tiny little bit this morning, and anyhow, let's hop to it. Let's see how long we can go. Jeez. This is one hell of a seal. Much better than the last one. It's a bit excessive though. Late start better than none. Yep. I didn't think I was going to get to paint it all today. I didn't think I was going to paint it all there because I was going to go out of town, and then I just sent the girls. The girls went out of town. So it actually went another friend, so they didn't need me. All right. Did an unboxing video last night. Posted it this morning. It will not allow me to post it on Facebook with the thumbnail. So if I cannot put a thumbnail on it, I'm not putting it on Facebook. I don't know what it is. I've cleared the cache. I've read about it. I tried it a half dozen times. Fuck it. I'm not putting it on there. You guys should be subscribed to me on this YouTube anyways. Only have, I don't know, a couple hundred viewers on Facebook and almost 2,000 on here, so. Yeah, you share a video, and then you share the video, and it's got this blank space instead of having the front of the video. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not putting any videos out there without the little decal. Yeah, that's what happens when you subscribe to, when you use something on the internet that's free. You know, you just get what you get. So, okay, Mongol guy. Mongol guy? Yeah, he looks like a Mongol guy. The Hun. Let's do his bow thing here. Let's do his bow thing. Hey Patriot, how you doing? Tony Nation. Could send people out to war if this is a nation. Nah, I like leaving people alone. Speaking of sending people out to war, I had been, I always like when I get excited about some kind of military history that I don't really know anything about, and find out there's all kinds of shit. Okay, let me go back. I always like it when I find some military history that I happen to find interesting at the time. So it's not something I've always liked, like World War II stuff. And if I realize that there's so much more, there's a lot of interesting stuff I had no idea about. And the example I'm going to give you is I've been looking at possibly doing or playing some of that Blood and Steel, which is Victorian stuff. And I didn't realize about all the Afghan conflicts obviously I knew that they fought up there, but I didn't know that it was as involved as it was. So, and that the Russians almost got involved, which is, always one of the things I had thought about would make a great game is Russian involvement. I didn't realize that I almost predicted the past. But so I was watching some videos earlier today about the Anglo-Afghan conflict, and was excited about learning something new that I didn't know. Obviously with the prospect of wargaming it, maybe not it specifically, but the backdrop of it, I had no idea. So it's always cool when you find stuff like that, And I'm not talking about, World War II stuff that I've always had an interest in since forever. Looks like a close haircut. Okay. You not know anything. Wait, what? Check your temps. I don't know what you're saying there, man. You're speaking to me in code. And I lost the Enigma machine. I've said it before, wargaming for me has been about learning about stuff, So. I had to go take the wife's car in for service. That took an extremely short period of time. I didn't even have a chance to watch anything. And, yeah. And now I got a little bit of a headache. I can't seem to shake. You claim you didn't know something. Keep up. I haven't had enough caffeine today. I claimed I didn't know something. Yeah. Well, there's too many people that claim that they know something, and then when they get brought to task, they actually don't know shit. Too many people are afraid to admit that they don't know anything about something, and it's like, it's all right, man. So yeah, I did that little bit of a video that got uploaded this morning, and for some reason the gremlins in the Facebook gremlins won't allow me to post it. Won't allow me to share the video with a thumbnail, and it's happened to me before. And it's basically a clearing a cache. And I did it. It didn't do it again. I did it several times. Restarted the phone. I give up. So those few people that are on Facebook and not on YouTube, they miss out. They won't know about this video. That it's not like it's some epic video that I made or anything. But I kind of like to post it everywhere. So if people have their head in the sand, they can at least find out about it. But it's really annoying to make a thumbnail, and then for some reason the Facebook doesn't want to show it to people. So I won't be doing that again. If it doesn't give me a thumbnail, I won't post it. People come here to learn history from you. I don't know. Let's just say that some of my passion can carry out over to them. It's a passion for knowledge, Passion for knowledge. So, and hopefully the Lidco stands show up here soon. I've got like 3 and I'm out. And it was nice to have a positive experience from Noble Knight, because my last experience with him wasn't so positive. It wasn't negative, but it's not what I would have expected. A negative response would have actually involved them communicating with me, and that was the problem, is they didn't communicate. But it all got resolved correctly. It was just, they probably have a lot going on. So the interesting thing about Noble Knight, and I don't know what the story about this is behind, but I'll just go ahead and tell you what I know about it, is that they kind of showed up out of nowhere At least I found out about them after the last square closed down. And the last square seemed to suspiciously is like in the same town or very close to where Noble Knight is. And I don't know if there's a tie-in between the two, but you know, it just seems. I mean, Wisconsin's not that big of a freaking state, and to have the two places like on top of each other just seems really odd. Because Noble Knight actually had some of the similar type of inventory that the last square had, and I don't know if that's just a coincidence or, you know, or what have you. Not a paint, a freaking arrow. They don't get any advert money off that video. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't get that. I had something to do with the cache last time. I fixed it. It wouldn't post it. That's another thing you do is I've actually had this happen before. I'll upload a video, and I'm kind of careful that this doesn't happen again. Well, I uploaded a video and there was a mistype in not the video itself, but like I mistyped the name of the video by like one letter, like a crossed letter. Anyways, I needed to fix the heading on it. And once it's set onto YouTube, forget it. I mean, once it's set onto Facebook, forget it. You can't change it. And same thing with YouTube. I literally had to delete the video and then resend it again. So I'm real careful about that now because it just creates a shitload of work for me. You know, like an S and a T were switched or something like that. I look at it, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. You know, I can't look at that. That's going to drive me crazy. I think we can use the same. Let's change this up a little bit so it stands out. This should good work for the arrow color. Yeah, and we'll make it really, really light. All the stuff I've been able to do on videos, I've just figured it out just by trying it out. Just like, let's see if this works. And it should be easy to use. And if it isn't easy to use, well then, I already have a full-time job I don't like. I don't need to dislike my hobby. So, it's just like that free editor on my computer. I'm like, oh, I can now have a computer. I can edit things on the computer. That'll go a lot smoother. Yeah, the problem is that the editors just do too much stuff you don't need them to do. I was using one that was basically free, and it's so complicated. You could make like commercials for NBC or some shit like that. It's way too complicated for what I need, and it ended up jamming up on me as well. You know, it just stagnated. So it's like, well, that's not moving right in the right direction. So. Fighting with a computer is not my idea of a good time, so. All right, it's time to make a metal corner. Just the arrowhead. So once we get this guy done, we're going to go ahead and seal him and the other 5 guys. And mount him and one other figure on a stand and work out how the basing's going to look. Because I want one stand done just to see, just to see what it looks like. I'm going to do some different basing on there, some different colors. We're still going to use the Vallejo material. I'm going to try out some new tufts and see what it looks. I want these guys to not be completely arid looking bases, but grasslands. Grasslands, but not grasslands that have been irrigated. All right. Where to next? Where to next? We're going to do like light gray pants, and we're going to do... Yeah, let's go ahead and do the pants now. And I'm not going to be lazy and just mix a gray from there. Let's grab one that's already have some tones in there. I suspect that I may have a poor showing today because of a late start, but it is what it is. We'll do what we can do while we can do it. What the hell are Byzantines doing up here? Put those guys away. I don't want to get all dusty. I was floored how expensive 28mm plastic miniatures are. Floored. $41. Like, they're plastic. That'll be 20. They should be like, I don't, doesn't really matter how much they cost. I wasn't going to get them. I was just surprised how much they were. I was like, damn. Damn. Especially if you're playing a game that involves a lot of figures. Especially if you're playing a game that's very basic. I mean, people can play whatever they want, but if I'm going to spend a lot of time painting figures, I want them to be on the table a long time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's no point in like spending, 20 hours painting a figure and then it's just, okay, everybody moves 3 inches. All right, roll a d6. All right, on the one you hit. Okay, you hit. Oh, you died. Take him off the table. Wait a second. I just spent freaking 20 hours painting that dude. You mean you don't even give him a name or anything like that? Need some more detail than that. Joe, were you there the other night when Joel was talking about what his next project that he's going to be working on? He ordered some 15mm stuff to do World War II rapid fire, which I'm not a fan of the rule set. I'll play it because, he's building all the stuff, so I'll roll dice, I've played it before. It doesn't scratch my World War II itch. But, I had a good time playing Commanding Colors Napoleonics, and it's not very Napoleonic-y, and still enjoyed it. But he's supposedly going to be working on that next, so... Have at it. I'll roll dice. Little wasn't really paying attention. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's trying to produce. He's kind of in the middle. He lives in the middle of freaking nowhere. He lives over there where you could walk on the mosquitoes. But he said he's going to do it. That's fine. You be the point man on it. I'll play. World War II just isn't a 15 millimeter scale for me. You know, I think 15 millimeter figures are almost too small to do skirmish. And I think they're too big to... Yeah, people could do whatever they want. It doesn't really appeal to me to collect. Regardless of how many resources there are now. Because now it's, a ton. What was the color I was going to use? We're going to need these guys eventually. I mean, when I started doing World War II, there wasn't any World War II 15 mil. It was just getting started. Just getting started. Oh, I know what kind of color it is. Let me find it. It is here, this one. Yeah. So what we're going to do is boots in. I saw one of the people I'm subscribed to, they had painted some warlord figures and from Napoleonic's warlord figures that came, I guess, with a War Games Illustrated magazine, trying to entice them into getting into their stuff. I think that's a good strategy. And but the figures are 13.5 millimeter. And that's just like, you get entice people and then they can only buy supplies of the stuff from you. Which is fine as long as you don't go out of business and then people are invested in some scale that isn't supported by anybody else. I could see that being a problem, down the road. If they pull a Games Workshop and like, oh, we're not going to make any more figures for this. Well, I already got a Napoleonic army and I was hoping the Prussians were going to come out. Nope, you'll have to get them from somebody else. Well, nobody else makes 13.5 millimeter. Oh, have a nice day. Whoops. But I guess that's their business model, is supply them with everything so they'll have to come to you for... Like those naval miniatures they came out with is, what are they, 1800 scale? Which there's other stuff that's an 1800. But they're mounted on bases, which I'm not a big fan of. And you don't really need them with ships that big. I mean, 1800 is pretty big. But their bases look like freaking flip-flops. It's like you cut out a flip-flop and put it on there. this morning. It went actually too quick. I wanted to watch some videos and didn't get a chance to watch any. But I did have another interesting incident, which that seems to be a place where you just encounter incidents there. And let me go grab a Coke and I'll tell you about it. Maybe incident is the wrong name for it. Situation. Who we got here? Mr. Ian, welcome. Yeah, I hate it when people can't behave in public, like civilized human beings, and I'm going to call people on it, especially when it's people older than I am. I'm 51, and if you're older than me, I don't mean people that are freaking 85. I'm talking about people in their late 50s, early 60s, okay? You guys aren't millennial trash that weren't raised by anybody worth a damn, okay? You guys know better. Okay, so there's ways you don't behave in public. And I've had twice of it happen. It doesn't happen very often. I don't live in a big metropolitan area where people misbehave all the time. I live in the South, and people generally know how to behave and conduct themselves like human beings, you know? And I don't live in a big city, okay? So you don't have to push people out of the way and stomp on them, whatever, to get ahead in life. But the first time I took in my car for service, there's a service bay, you know, and a service bay is just an overhang, basically. It's part of the same building between the showroom and where the little the service building is, where you would go in and you would check in and so forth. And you know, it's basically how wide is it? Maybe 20 feet wide, 25. You know, two cars can fit through there, but you know, it's generally accepted, at least in this country, as one of them is the open lane, right? So I'm the first person there in the morning on a Saturday. This was, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. And, you know, the place opens at 8. So I'm already there like at 7:15, right? And just, you know, wait in line. And if you make an appointment at those places, it doesn't do you any good. You know, you just have to get there first, because people always get, you know, people that don't have appointments get in front of you if you have an appointment, and there's no point in that. Also, they'll do stuff like, they don't do an appointment until like 9, okay? So, I mean, the place opens like an hour earlier, so I just get there an hour earlier. I just don't need anything complicated, just an oil change, right? Hey, Doug. Welcome back. So, I think this was my first oil change at the Subaru dealership, because we were kind of new to Subarus at the time. So this is our first Subaru run. So we pull in. I'm in the first. I pull in the first spot, you know, right there by the door. And this woman comes in. It doesn't matter that it's a woman. It just happened to be a woman. Goes around me and gets in front of me and backs up to me, so she's ahead of me in line. And, you know, like, who does that? Who does a dick move like that? And the place isn't even open yet. And so that happened a couple 6 months ago, whatever. It didn't do her any good. They had apparently seen that I was there first, and they took my name first in line. I wasn't in that big of a hurry. I'm just like, I'm a morning person. I might as well go in and get out, right? So this morning, I go and do the same thing. I take my wife's car, and there's somebody already there in that same spot, all the way up to the front. And fuck it, let's use some cars. We got some cars. We got some cars. These dusty old things. So there's the area to pull up in, and there's a guy that's already pulled up in, and no, this car did not look like this, fortunately. Fortunately for everyone. So he's pulled all the way up to the spot, and that's literally the first spot. And this is kind of in this breezeway that's maybe 20 feet wide, right? So this is like the through lane. Like if you know, you have to go from one part to the other, you go through here. You don't block both lines. So I pull in here. And I stay in my car because the place isn't open for like 20 minutes or something like that. And this person comes in and pulls all the way, and I'm gonna do this proportionally, okay? This person comes in and pulls in there. So there's people in this car that were there before I got there, and they can't even open their damn door out because this person blocks them in. I'm not going to tell you that it's a woman, but it was. And it doesn't have to do because they're a woman. They're just an inconsiderate piece of shit, basically. And I'm like, and this guy's like walking around like flabbergasted that the woman had done that. And the woman's like, I don't know, 60? I don't think she's much older. She's older than I am. Like, you freaking know better, okay? I could believe like maybe one of these entitled pieces of shit that, you know, that are born yesterday would do stuff like that. But people my age and within 20 years of my age, you freaking knew better. Like, you know who your freaking dad was back then, okay? And you don't do things like that. So I decided, like, no, I'm not going to say anything to them because I don't give a shit if they get her before the other ones. But it's like, who does stuff like that? So that's why I need a moonlight. I need a moonlight as a vigilante that goes around and teaches people freaking manners. They ought to know better. Get into fights and altercations with people with no reason. I'm going to film. You know what? Next time I go, I'm going to film a video. And hopefully something like that happens. To just go like, what the hell are you doing? And I don't need to get a fight with them, but somebody needs to tell them, look, you're a piece of shit for being inconsiderate like that. I mean, it's not like, you know, you have some kind of an emergency or something. Everybody knows when you got there. That doesn't happen in the South, folks, okay? That's extremely disrespectful. Tony's rules for parking. No, living. I mean, who the hell does shit like that, you know? If you're waiting in line, right? If you're at a grocery store and you're waiting in line, and all the lines are full, right? And they open a new register, you just don't assume the people from the back can go and hop on it. I mean, I let the other people go. Like, go ahead, you guys were here first. I don't know. Maybe I'm too honorable for this society. Thanks for letting us know. Forge and Battle Sale. I'm now 90 pounds poorer and have another 4 DBA armies to paint. Good. I'm an enabler. I didn't know. Hopefully. Now, I'm not sponsored by anybody. And I'm not sponsored by anybody specifically for this reason. When people have a shitty product, and shitty's a wrong example. When stuff happens to their product, I don't want to pull any punches. And I was saying in my video that they're should have gotten behind a second car. Absolutely. Who does that? I don't do things like that. Anyhow. The alloy on these guys is very hard. It is. It's so hard that one of the bows, I tried to, I was taking a piece off of it and it tried to straighten a little bit and it broke. So maybe it's too hard. But other than that, gorgeous figures. Gorgeous figures. They're probably the nicest figures I own. They're as nice as Zyston. Zyston are getting to the point where they really are pretty darn big, which is okay. I mean, you know, they sometimes don't mix the best with other people. Mr. Miller, welcome back. So I didn't say anything to the lady, but I did say to the guy in the front, and I said, you know, because it was a husband and a wife that were up there and they couldn't even get out of their own vehicle. I said, Man, I almost came out there and said something to her, 'cause that's just bull. And then the next thing you know, the next hour, he's my new buddy, and he started talking about everything between what's wrong with the country and how the end times are coming. I'm like, do you believe in the end times? I'm like, no. He was all right, but I didn't get to watch anything. I wanted to learn about the Anglo-Afghan War, And I still haven't watched the video. I only watched about half of it. Time's a wasting. It happened, 200 years ago, whatever, and I haven't learned about it yet. Come on. Time's a wasting. I recently bought some custom terrarii. They're huge compared to my old glory Romans. Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem with some of the Zyston guys. Some of their biggest ones are Romans. That's like people that make like Japanese, and their Japanese figures would be the biggest ones. Like, come on, folks. But they're still well cast figures. Yeah, they're pretty big. They're pretty big. You can still fit them on 15 millimeter deep stands, though. You just have to get creative. The only thing I have not been able to fit on the WRG stands, and that's the museum camels. Those old museum camels, and they're beautiful castings, but they're like, they're like greyhounds. They're like stretching out to try to get that. They're like in a race and they're trying to get their nose in and be the winner, and you can't get them. You gotta cock them in like 30 degrees. I'm just not gonna do that. So I don't know what the hell I'll use them for. Maybe a camp or something like that. Yeah, they really are. They really are. I hope they. People that do good products, they deserve to stay in business. So I hopefully they're doing all right and are doing well. I can't remember if you're in the States or not, but basically what it translated in it was free shipping for me. So it was 45 quid for the 3 packs I bought. It turned into like $54 or something like that. And no shipping. No valued added tax either. America. Hey, they tax your freaking income before you ever spend any money, so why should you be paying any taxes on top of that? Either tax your income or tax what you spend, but not both. You tax on both ends, and then you still don't know how to spend it. Value-added tax. Bullshit. And they shipped in a week. Some museum Z-range hoplites are too wide to fit 4 on a 40 millimeter wide base. That's a problem then. I hope eventually he'll put pictures on his website of what the finished things look like, because they don't look like the artistic renderings. They look better. They look way better. And if people don't know that, you're going to get some people that'll be disappointed. They think they're going to get A and they get Q. Because some of the renderings, their hands are almost like extreme Warhammer in size. And Joe's got some of their figures, and their figures are really good. But they don't really look like what their renderings look like. So hopefully get that squared away so he doesn't lose business because of it. But he's a really quick shipper, Museum is. And so's Essex. And apparently so's Forged in Battle. So the Brits got their act together when it comes to shipping. The slowest shippers are here in this country that I've dealt with. Noble Knight wasn't bad, but if you order stuff from like 19th Century Miniatures, which is Old Glory US, I've got no problem with them. They have a great product. I'm a big fan of Old Glory, but expect to get it in 3 weeks, as they probably have to cast it. I think that's what happened with my order, but I was very happy with the way it turned out. It's just, you have to plan accordingly. You can't just be like, man, I need to get these next week. Not from them, you're not. I get it. It's probably people that do something else for a business, or you can't make a living making figures, I don't think. All right, time to put the stirrups on this fellow. But that was just pure coincidence. I ordered these figures when I needed them, and they just so happened to be on sale. I mean, I'm happy to have saved, what would it be, $15, something like that. I'm glad to have sold them, but I would have gotten them anyways. So I don't generally buy things because they're on sale. I buy them because I need them. Now, I'll go to a flea market and like, hey, how much for this? What do you got in here? I don't know. Well, $10 for the whole thing. I'll jump on that, okay? Or $1 a pack for things, that I don't need. That'll do, but 20% off. You got to be like 50% off or more than that, and that's just I don't expect people to get that. That's fine. I mean, I'll get things when I need them. And not before. I don't try to get them until I'm at the point of no return, where if I don't do anything with them now, well, I've got the army almost completely done, so that would be stupid. So I tried to see if somebody, I knew they weren't going to, but just in case, had Forged in Battle at Historicon, and they didn't. Because I would not have wanted to just be able to walk out there with them, but I wouldn't be able to do that because I ordered them. So I just waited an extra day or so and ordered them on the Friday after I'd looked through the vendor hall and realized that nobody had stuff except Essex. And I still ended up getting Essex stuff. Has QRF freaking opened up finally to do their feudal stuff yet? They can remain closed because that might be too tempting for me to order my pre-feudal Scots guys that I want to mix in. Of course, to be honest with you, they're going to look very what's the word I want to use? Not exciting looking. The castings after painting these are some of the best ones, but still, older castings that maybe aren't as illustrious still paint up well. As long as you give them some love, they'll still paint up okay. Try to buy figures when they're on sale. Only buy for museum in January. Always have 20% off. I generally only try to only buy figures. Okay. Do you buy them because they're on sale, or you want to get these and then you'll wait until they're on sale? That one's a little bit better. I just don't see a big incentive. Like, hey, we can't sell these things, so let me discount them 25. 25% just isn't. Maybe I just don't order enough figures, and I don't. You know, a lot of places do, like, hey, free shipping over $100. I'm not ordering $100 worth of figures. That's a lot of figures. Well, in 15 millimeter, it's a lot of figures. In 28, it's just 2 packs. 2 of those blisters, or whatever they call them. What are those warlord things called that come with 28 figures or something like that? Blisters? I don't know. I was floored that those things retailed for over $40. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. That's a lot of dough for plastic figures. All right, we need to bring this up a little bit. Maybe one little bit. I actually had somebody that offered to send me 28 millimeter figures a while ago. Said, I'll send them some and you can paint them like for free. I'm like, I really appreciate it, but I'm just not going to get them done. You just be wasting your postage. I don't want you to do that. You know, I'm just going to be honest with you, which is maybe not the tack that anybody else would have taken, but I just like being honest. You know, when I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I'm eaten up about it. You know, I don't like to say I'm going to do one thing and then do something. Yeah, I'll come over on Wednesday, and then I don't show up on Wednesday. It pisses me off, you know. There's enough people in the world that do stunts like that. They don't need me on their team. I have other faults, not that one. Let's do the little case that the arrow case goes in this one. You have a long wish list. That's right. It's a checklist, not an army list. So wait until someone has a sale and order whatever they have that I want. I have plenty of stuff to paint while waiting for the next sale. Well, that works. Hey, whatever works for you. I've just bought stuff before and been like, I already bought them. I'm not interested in them. I'm better about it. I'm better about it. Like, I'm not like, I got to paint every single thing I have. I'm like, on my next project, I need to use some of the things that I already have to work on it. Even if I order more of them for variety or what have you. That's kind of my goal, is just to always use some of the figures that I have in it. And it's worked out pretty well. Like, I already had all these Huns from Gladiator. Like, well, I'll order some of these Forged in Battle guys to mix them in. And I'll use the Gladiator guys in between them. So I suspect half this army will be Gladiator, half will be Forged in Battle, especially since they mix in so well. They would have had to be really lopsided, like old minifigs and Zyston or something like that, not to use them together. The way you describe Ian buying figures is the way I feel about video games. I don't buy stuff on Steam unless I really, 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 really want it, which isn't very often, fortunately, or it's at a Steam sale, because the Steam sale stuff is like 50 or 75% off. It's like huge. Huge. Not no measly 20% off. Big time. Big time. That's significant. So, Which that reminds me, I've got some time to myself, so I may do some video gaming. Probably when I'm done spraying these guys and I got to dry for a little bit. I may boot up something and play with it for an hour and then come back on come back online. Yeah, it's a good thing that I'm not addicted to video games like I used to be. Now it's just like, been there, I've saved the world. How many Nazis do I have to kill? I've killed thousands, you know. You're new tempted by the new museum Normans? Yeah, they look super cool, don't they? But I already have a minifigs Norman army, enough spare figures to do the early Crusader and Anglo-Norman armies. So do I. So do I. At some point, you need to be happy with what you have. You can't just always be chasing that golden goose, you know? Keeping up with the Joneses. Why do I have two of them that I don't know. Sometimes when I'm yammering, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Oh well. Yeah, those Normans look pretty cool. I've always thought Normans look pretty cool. I know the people in the UK don't like them, but I always like the guys that are cooler looking than their enemies. So I'm kind of a fan of nasal helms. Dinner time. Okay, man. Thanks for stopping by. Saw the movie 55 Days in Peking was okay. Cast of hundreds, like the movies of that era. Did you watch it because I posted something about it recently? I'm not saying that I'm an enabler, but I had been wanting to see it for a long time. And in the last week, about 3 days ago, I finally saw it. I thought it was going to be better. I thought it was going to be better. Yeah, I thought it was going to be better. But, you know, it did give me that stepping stone to like go and read more about the incident, you know? Because I don't just look at a movie and go, well, that's exactly how it happened. No, but it gives you kind of a frame of reference, you know? I don't think I'd watch the movie again, you know? Is that a contact lens holder thing? Yes. Somebody's idea on here told me to use that. I was using something else instead, and I forgot who got the credit, but somebody eventually did step up and said, it was me, and I just took their word for it. I'm like, hey, I don't need to steal your thunder. Other people have good ideas, too. And, yeah, it actually works pretty well. It actually works pretty well. But I thought the movie was actually going to be better than it was. But Mitch likes it because he likes anything with Charlton Heston. I'm not a huge Charlton Heston fan. He's just kind of one-dimensional. He does... Well, you know what? Let me take that back. All actors of that period pretty much did them, okay? So you just put them in a role, and that's kind of who they do. Because, like, I'm a fan of David Niven, who's in that movie. But David Niven always does David Niven. And I'm okay with that because I like that person that he does. But you know, what's in this is Vallejo Airbrush thinner, and it's just kind of a thinning agent for my paint. It just helps with flow. It helps with flow. I can't even. I basically would do the same thing with water to kind of thin it down to get it so you don't like get too much paint and just like go across the thing so it applies smoothly. And it's expensive. It's like $20 for, but it's a lot. But it's, you know, $20 for 2 years worth, you know. Next movie, El Cid. I saw El Cid for the first time when I was working on my feudal Spanish, and it was all right. It was all right. The heraldry and shit's all wrong, but you know, it's not all wrong. It's mostly wrong. The movie I want to see, and I haven't seen it since I was a kid, that's a Charlton Heston movie, is Ben-Hur, the original Ben-Hur. I remember liking that as a kid. And I want to show it to my daughter, because my daughter is receptive of some historical stuff, even old movies. And, I like any of those movies. It's like, we need Roman warships. What do? Well, you fucking build them, okay? And, so you build models. I mean, we're all modelers, right? We can appreciate well, that really didn't exist there. They had to, that's why Tora is so freaking cool. Like, we need a model of the Nagato. So they freaking built one, I mean, how freaking cool is that? Screw the CGI stuff, I like the fact that somebody's sitting around with a freaking toy on their shelf that came to life in a movie. Like those Cyclops monsters and stuff they had from the 50s and the 60s. That's freaking cool. They had some claymation creature that somebody has as a toy, and in movie magic, it came alive. I appreciate that stuff. Use it for airbrush, not this though. Good idea, gonna stop. Gate cross. Nah, there's no gate crashing here, man. No gate crashing. Everything's fair game. As long as we're friendly, and no politics, no religion. I don't think anybody's tried religion. Let's not try. I actually had one guy that, well, not really religion, but he posted a comment on a, if you've seen any of my videos, I put all of my comments are, you can't post them until I get reviewed, because this one guy wanted to start a jihad on my channel because I was playing a Crusades era battle, and I was playing the Ayyubids, and they didn't win. It's a game, right? I'm going to try to win with them no matter whether or not I like or dislike whoever they are. I'm going to try to win. And, there's luck involved, and they didn't win. He got like, oh, the Egyptians are the best people in the world, and we can't be defeated. And I'm like, okay, stop. We got to moderate all comments, because we're not going to start a jihad on my footprint, Yep, the Godzilla models. Yeah, it's cool. It's really, really freaking cool, What movie is it? Sink the Bismarck? Isn't Sink the Bismarck has ship models, and they're accurate ship models for the ships? That's pretty freaking cool. Too bad it wasn't black. Too bad it's black and white. Oh, there's another black and white movie I have seen. I got to make a list one time, but I don't think it's more than 10. I've never seen more than 10 black and white movies. That's what I'm going to stick with. I'm not opposed to old movies. I'm not opposed to foreign movies. Matter of fact, I kind of prefer foreign movies, but they got to be in color. They got to be in color. That's what you see a movie for, is color. If you're going to see it in black and white, you might as well just read a book. Okay. What color did we end up using for the... yeah, we did a little mix for the arrows, so we can be consistent with the arrow color. Yeah, I prefer the foreign movies because they have people in them that you don't recognize. I don't mean foreign like UK. I mean foreign like, places that you don't see actors from. So I want to learn more about that Anglo-Afghan conflict, because that's a period I had been thinking in the past of kind of delving into. I don't know. I like to think about it and then go like, it's not such a good idea. Now this game, I played this Sword in the Flame game with one of the guys at our local cons, and it was a British Afghan game that he did, and we were just kind of brainstorming at the bar afterwards, saying, that's a really good period. God, it was so long ago. I don't think the Afghan invasion had even happened yet. Oh, it must have. It must have. That was 2001. So this must have been around 2010. Something like that. I said, that's a really good period, because you could have all kinds of, you could have people that are missionaries on there. You can have the Russians get involved. I didn't realize the Russians got almost as involved as they did when I said that comment. And then when I learned about it, I'm like, oh, that's just ripe for the pickings. That's just ripe for the pickings to have, an almost World War I type environment but with natives on both sides and stuff like that. So that could be pretty cool. You rewatched Kingdom of Heaven the other night. Also, Arna the Templar for the first time. Right rousing fun. I'm not sure which one that is. I saw Kingdom of Heaven in a movie theater and I was like, really? This is, of all the things that happened in the Crusade, this is what you're going to show. But I look at things for different reasons that the people make the movies. The guys make the movies, first of all, to make a buck. And second of all, to kind of push an agenda. I love history not because it pushes an agenda. I just think it's incredibly interesting. And I would have done the First Crusade. I mean, the First Crusade's just freaking... a lot of the Crusades are really insane. The First Crusade's particularly insane. But again, you could have just said that they would have done it and they would have done it wrong. So, or I wouldn't have cast that guy as Bohemond or, whatever, They have different reasons for doing things that people that are into military history are interested in watching movies. We want to see stuff in action. Like, what happens when knights crash into freaking spearmen? That's what we want to see, So yeah, Kingdom of Heaven does not focus on what I would have wanted to. Yeah, it's good to watch movies as a first step if you're ignorant, and I mean ignorant in a good way. Ignorant as in, I don't know anything, but hey, I'm willing to learn, as opposed to, I don't know shit and I want to keep it that way. There's a love interest in the kingdom. With, what's her name? Eva Green, which doesn't do anything for me. Her and Bloom, which also doesn't do anything for me. But, for that type of a movie, I think Gladiator's a better movie. I thought Gladiator was a great movie. I thought it was a great movie. Any movie that gets your blood going, like any revenge plot, that's what I like. I fully admit I am a revenge plot person. Payback. Payback movies are my favorite thing. There's a couple of those Crusader things that I haven't... There's one that's like a Swedish dude, right? That may be the one you're talking about. I don't think it's called Arna the Templar. At least not in the United States. I don't forget what it is. There's some... Maybe it does have a guy's name. I can't remember what it is. I started watching it like 10 minutes and I gave up on it. That's the problem, is there's too many different things to watch. And when something isn't like perfect, you're like, I'm just going on to something else. And then you forget that you even started watching it. Then there's some Cathedral of the Sea or something like that. Then there's one that has... There's 3 or 4 of them. I haven't really watched any of them. They're all series, so you're like, another episode? And I'm like, I'm only going to watch them at lunchtime. I can't do this and watch TV, so I'd rather make things than just watch other people. As long as you don't take them as gospel, stepping stone. Exactly. Absolutely. Yep. It's Swedish. Okay, I know which one you're talking about. Arn. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Where is he? Does he go to the Holy Land, or is he part of the Teutonic Knights? I just watched like the first 10 minutes and it didn't grab me. That doesn't mean I won't give it another shot. It just didn't grab me. Oh, isn't there one called Nightfall too? So you've got like Cathedral of the Sea, which I think and that one may be a Spanish one or something like that. There's that Arna one, and there's the Nightfall one. I just don't have time to... I don't want to make time to watch television. Let's put it that way. He goes there. Hatton is in it. It was provoked by me finding some Essex Crusader armies I found. Yeah. Historicon did have the Essex vendor, which Essex aren't my favorite, but if you don't buy, I'm perfectly happy using them as long as I don't buy a DBA Army pack. As long as I can mix the figures from whatever packs I want to get the right look of the Army, you can do a lot of it with Essex. The problem that Essex has, probably the biggest problem that they have, in my opinion, is that a lot of their figures look the same as other figures that they have. So you don't get done painting an Essex Army and go, oh man, I can't wait to paint another one. At least I can't, because it's a lot of the same thing, and it's mostly poses and stuff like that. It's not really knocking them. You know, they've been around forever. They're kind of the standard fare of the figures. I don't dislike them. I bought several of them at the convention, but I pretty much mix everybody with everything. So, and they were there. Honestly, I used to think they were stumpier looking than they are. I mostly have a problem with just variety of poses, you know. And you got some poses that are just weird, just awkward poses. Like, you know, if you paint an army of miniatures and you look at it, the way I look at it is like, okay, this is like if they had cameras back then, somebody took a camera of them doing their thing. And there's some poses that if you caught somebody in a camera doing that, it's such an awkward pose that only like 2 people in the entire army would ever be in that pose, because it's just kind of hard to balance or something like that. Like, it's not difficult to vision guys that are spearmen that are holding their spear up like this, right? It's relaxing. They're doing it all the freaking time. But to hold a spear like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Okay, in a snapshot, you're only going to catch like one guy doing that, because it's just kind of an awkward pose. And when you buy a DBA Army pack, sometimes you have 8 spear figures and 6 of them are in that weird pose. And you're like, what's wrong with this? That's my only gripe with them. So if I can buy them in individual packs, you know, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem buying them. I just want to go through. I don't mind having extra figures. I just want to paint the guys I want to paint. You used to have a distributor in West Virginia. Yep. War Games. And their stuff used to be advertised everywhere. And they just closed up shop. I'm not really sure why, but... The Doctor. Dr. Munoz. Unless you're from Spain, and it's Dr. Munoz. Welcome. Hadn't planned to start a Crusader army, but stumbled across a great deal on eBay. Early Crusader Field of Glory army, 35 packs for just over 90 pounds, including delivery. So off the Holy Land I go. And there's a lot of different things you could do with the Crusaders. There's a lot of different things you could do with the Crusaders. Yeah. I just don't have them because I try not to do armies that other people I play with regularly have. It's just counterproductive, you know. I mean, there's what, 550 armies? Certainly I could pick ones that other people that are around me don't have, you know? Especially because I'm not particularly interested in playing Civil Wars. You know, the same army fighting itself. Okay, are we about done with him? Nope, we've got a, what is this, a bow case? Yeah, we're going to call this a bow case. All right, I know what color we're going to do for that. We're going to do that khaki color. It's kind of light. Gotta say, my only exposure to DBA figures has been Essex and Bauda, or however it's spelt. Well, you spelt it correctly. You just needed to drop the U in front of after the B. It's B-A-U-D-A. And I always called it Bauda. I don't know if that's correct, but it's I don't know what language is it in, but it looks like it would be Celtiberian. Looks like what it's spelled in. Personally, I prefer the look of the Essex. Yeah. Well, a lot of it is looks, and a lot of it is poses. Like, I'm not a fan, and people love this figure line, and I wasn't heartbroken when they went out of business, or when they got picked up by somebody else, and that's why I can't wait till next year. I'm really going to be forgetting shit, and I've never done any drugs. Good thing. Well, caffeine doesn't count. Caffeine's a vitamin. That's no drug. The elixir of life. God, what was the name of those guys? I don't know. Everybody seemed to like them, and I never cared for them. I do have some of their figures, but they were picked up by Plastic Soldier Company. Now make some of their stuff. And Corvus Belli. I never liked Corvus Belli. They had weird poses. Weird poses like, let me get my Irishman out here with a weird pose. Not because he's Irish, he's just in a weird pose. An awkward pose. And I don't mind them in these awkward poses, but I only have one of them in my army. Mr. Wolf, the Wolf Man. Master painting in 13.5 millimeter. That's crazy. That's crazy, that scale. At least do 10s, dude. At least do 10s. Here's a weird pose. This guy right here. It looks awkward as shit. Maybe from above. It just seems really weird. To have, like 8 guys in your army that are doing the exact same thing. Here's another Essex guy in a weird pose. And it's not because he's in mid-throw. Like, this guy looks fine. This guy looks fine. This guy looks fine. These are just kind of strange dudes. I forgot how much I love my Irish guys. Those poor bastards lost. Last time I brought them out, they lost all 3 games. And they went from an 8-3 to an 8-6. I got to be careful now. Maybe you're Irish. I know my weird poses. I don't know anybody who's Irish. I had one of my best friends wargaming. His name was Mike O'Neill, and he disappeared. And you know how hard it is to find somebody in the United States named Michael O'Neill? It took me frickin' 2 decades. I tracked his ass down though. Oh, Michael O'Neill. Oh, we got like 10 of them here. Their own scale, 13.5. Well, the problem with that is, and I loved your video, by the way. I always like your videos. Your demeanor online is very zen and very relaxing. So, but if you buy into that system, and I don't have a problem necessarily with that scale, they're probably a nice size. But if you buy into that, and then Warlord says, okay, that's it, we're going to go and do something else, and they didn't make Prussians yet, and you need Prussians, you're up a creek, If they pull a Games Workshop on you, Irish here as well. You're bloody everywhere. Oh, man. Well, it's like I used to say, my ancestors are partially responsible for making sure all you Irish guys aren't all red-haired and freckled. Crashed on the north shore of Ireland, the Armada. And we like the Irish girls, I guess. It's all good. But I love playing my Irish. I really do. I really, really do. So I think I would enjoy the living hell out of playing Scots as well. So, yeah, you get to drink whiskey with both of them. That's a win. Even though it hadn't been invented yet. Time machine. All right, what color? Oh, the khaki. This one. This one. Nah, we don't derail conversations here. We can talk about anything. We'll talk about something and go back to movies. Movies always seem to come up. I'm not a big movie watcher. I try to find, I found the 55 Days in Peking. I've been trying to see it for a little bit of time, but not wanting to see it enough to buy it. And somebody put it on YouTube in 4K resolution. It looks freaking great, okay? It looks really, really good, not grainy at all. So I'm like, all right, that's on there. Is The Wind and the Lion on there? And it wasn't, but I was doing searches, and I'm like, oh, here it is. And I start playing it, and I didn't realize what I had clicked on was another movie that I had never heard of, that maybe some of you guys know, that also looks like it could be interesting, called The Lion of the Desert or something like that. And it's like Italians and Libyans in the 1920s. And I started watching that. I'm like, okay, this is probably okay, but this version's a little too grainy really to watch. So yeah, you find things like that, and then I said, well, what if The Man Who Would Be King would be on there as well? Because I've seen that once. It's not on there. So I think maybe they allow them to put on there after like 50 years have passed or something like that. Maybe it's 50 or 60 years or something like that. So maybe when it's gone for 60 years, it's allowed to be on there. So, hey, when was coffee introduced to Europe anyways? 1600. Lion in the Wind. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was, the version that's on YouTube is way too, I'd never even heard of it, is way too grainy. When was coffee introduced to Europe? Anyways, I don't know. It'd be a toss-up, though. I'd rather have air conditioning than coffee. I wouldn't want to be painting in 90-degree weather. Like in my garage. As you guys like to say across the pond, your garage. That's another reason to not get into airbrushing. I'd have to airbrush out there, and it's just freaking hot. I live in the wrong part of the world to be working on things in the garage. Some people just put them in illegally until they're busted. Yeah. Well, I don't have any cable or anything, so unless it's on Netflix or Hulu, or I think my wife says we have Apple TV. What else? YouTube. There's some free stuff on Amazon. You know, there's enough different places to find something that's like, oh, they don't have this? Ah, fine, I'll watch something else. You know. Great Northern Irish inventing air conditioning. Hey, if they're responsible, then that's great. Big fan. It was almost too cold at Historicon a couple times. Almost. Not quite. I'm insulated enough to be able to handle the cold, but it was pretty cool in there. It was about 60 degrees cooler than Mitch's man shed most of the time. You call it a man shed, not a man cave. A man cave would insinuate that it's cold. Cable gets in the way of painting. Absolutely, Wolf. And I can't watch things. I can't have like a show on and paint. I'll be like, huh? And then I'm like, oh man, my paint's dried. So then, it's better than having a servant swing a fan back and forth all day long. Absolutely. Well, it depends what she looks like. Oh, we can't have those. Never mind. Oh, zip. A swinging servant. Yeah, I don't need servants. Thank you. So, anyways, I started watching a video today about the Anglo-Afghan wars, which I know very, very little about, mainly because I never had any intention of wargaming any of it. That is really the catalyst for a lot of my historical interest. Like, oh, I want to game this. Let's find out about it. And they had a lot of pictures of a lot of artillery getting towed by elephants. Elephant poo everywhere. But I'm interested mostly for what if purposes. Not what happened, but how it could have gone in a different direction. Because I think just natives against a European power is a little too boring. I think that having natives on both sides with their own agendas, different European powers with their own agendas, everybody using each other for their own purposes could really kind of be an interesting kind of a backdrop to something, to a skirmish style game. So, I don't know, maybe it's just brainstorming, but I have thought many years ago to do, something that's set in Victorian times, but not all about the UK. Not to be just a Britain versus the natives thing, but, kind of like an unaligned World War I in Victorian times, where, you would have a scenario where maybe the French and the Germans are working together. And, in another one that they're enemies, it just depends. It's more true than you know. We watch documentaries and movies of things we want to game. It ain't half hot mum that is on YouTube, but will never be on TV again for obvious reasons. I need a translator for that one. Like it ain't half hot. Pinkawalas. I need the cliff notes for that. It ain't half hot, Mom is hilarious, but won't float today. I'm already interested if it's something that doesn't float today. I'm old school. I like laughing about stuff that you can't say that. Well, I wasn't going to, but now that you told me that I can't say it. Let's have fun with it. I had somebody that made a comment on it wasn't a bad comment. It was just kind of made me think about something that I did a walkthrough at Historicon on the games, and somebody had made a comment that said that they didn't see very many American Civil War games, and they thought because it was the current environment that it was unfavorable to play those. And I'm like, not in the part of the United States I'm from. I mean, it's just a game, We play all kinds of people, I have no problem playing, supposed racists in a game. It's just a game. It doesn't make me a racist. As a matter of fact, in my gaming experience, the preference generally is to play the underdog. Generally. So, most people I've gamed with, they want to play the Germans in World War II or, the Confederates. Or, not because they're, bad guys or whatever. They just, they didn't win. And it's kind of their opportunity of getting them to win. Well, I didn't win either, but I did better than they did in real life, It Ain't Have Hot Mom is a British comedy about the British in India during World War II. Okay. It's an old, politically not correct UK comedy from the 70s. I gotta look it up now. I actually think I ain't... was comment on the crazy way things were then. Satire of not trying a whole PC debate. It's a British all-men choir troupe. Well, we didn't get that programming here in the States. Let's go a little lighter than that. Check it out on YouTube. How much of a lasting impact has the British in Malaysia had on your culture? I wonder. Has there been a lot? All right, what am I looking up? It Ain't Have Hot Mom. Okay, it ain't. I thought ain't was a U.S. thing. I guess it's the British have it as well. Have Hot Mom. I will check out anything on YouTube. Or has it been pulled? Oh, I can find it. I got places. I can find anything on the internet. Even stuff you don't want to find. Okay, that brings up a good point. Because somebody just joined that has a very interesting name. And I'd always called your first name Antiochus, because I like how Antiochus sounds, but if your name is Antiochus, you can't really call the town is it Antiochus or Antiochus? I don't know. I've always called it Antiochus. Epiphanes. I had an epiphany, and his name is Antiochus. Welcome to the show. It was all there about a week. British have a huge impact on Malaysia. What did we decide? That's where they make the Matchbox cars? Let's see. This guy's a Matchbox up here. Is he made in Malaysia or is it Thailand? Hot Wheels are in Thailand and the other ones are in Malaysia, I think. Nope. This one's made in England, 1973. All right. Oh, no, those are Matchbox. Oh, well. That's freaking cool. That's got to be cool to do a tour of a Matchbox car thing. I always like the way Antiochus sounds better than Antiochus. But it's obviously that the city is Antioch. I mean, there's nobody debating that. I've never heard it said a different way. Welcome to the show, man. All right, I feel like we need to do something a little bit different with this sword. So let's maybe do a green, but not like doing green. Less than doing. 13 people, man. Welcome all. Thanks for coming by and entertaining me. And hopefully I'm doing the same for you. Just hanging out, talking wargaming stuff, movies, history, and everywhere in between. Where are my needles? I take things you hear from a drug user for 1,000, please. No, I don't use them kind of needles. I'm high on life. I'm high on coffee is what it is, not life. I find it crazy that alcohol was prohibited at one time in this country. That is just freaking stupid as shit. And it's not a big part of my life. If I couldn't drink alcohol, okay, I can't drink alcohol. I just don't like somebody telling me I can't do something when I behave better when I drink than when I don't. I just like, what if they banned coffee? If caffeine was made illegal? We fight. No. Actually, if caffeine was banned, I'm not going to work. I'm just staying home and laze about. Because that's basically what would happen. I wouldn't get anything done. Liquid motivation. Mr. Wayne, welcome back. You're painting Huns as well. 25-year-old from Donington. Hey, the old figures are just fine. I got no problem with old figures. Ready for all-time history lists. So I was just saying earlier today, I was trying to do my history. Oh, okay, good. Wolfman's on here, okay? Wolfman's got a different opinion than probably most of us because he's front and center over there. So I was, about 6 months ago, I was looking at Austrian Napoleonic cuirass. Perfect. Love my Austrians. Well, I don't have any, but I love playing Austrians. I have a soft spot for the Habsburgs, but especially Spanish Habsburgs. Anyhow, Wolfman. So about 6 months ago, I was reading something, and I was like, let me do a search on the internet, which of course is not exactly a balanced viewpoint most of the time, but it said, what were some of the worst civilizations ever? And I came across many of these. Top 10 worst civilizations ever. And I was very surprised to find out, yeah, Mongols is top on the list. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it, Chris. They don't have back plates. Okay. That way the shot can go all the way through them. If they get hit by a cannonball and go all the way through them, it doesn't ricochet in there. But I was surprised to find that the British Empire was on the top 10 worst list. I'm flabbergasted. Maybe I just don't know enough about the history. But yeah, Assyrians, yeah, they're dickheads. You don't want them moving next to you. I figured that the worst people, the worst empires are folks you can't negotiate with, okay? Like Aztecs. Say the Aztecs moved next door. Well, what do the Aztecs basically live on? Human sacrifice. Like, okay, listen, we want to live. We have lots of gold. How about we give you gold and you don't sacrifice us? No deal. That's bad because you can't talk your way out of it, negotiate your way out of a bad situation. You know, you have one side has a civilization that's based on killing all of you, and there's no alternative to that other than exterminating them before they exterminate you. That's a bad civilization, you know. I would say the Mongols are better than the Aztecs because the Mongols at least gave you a chance to surrender. Now, if you're like, you know, just these people showed up at your door, you know, it's like if they happen here, they knock on your door. Tony, we want your house. Or we murder everybody. Well, you just showed up. You don't know what these people are are capable of. So what do you say? No. Well, that's the problem, is if you say no to the Mongols and you have a war and you don't win, you got problems, okay? But at least they gave you a chance, you know? Dacians. Really? You think Dacians? Okay, I'm going to take your word for it, because you know what that's going to do, Wayne? I'm going to read more about them. See, I don't think the Ottomans were that bad. And remember, my people fought the freaking Ottomans 500-600 years ago. But you could wheel and deal with the Ottomans, I think. It was all the British colonization. They gave everybody drink. Colonization. Why can't I say it? Colonization. And I'm one of the smart Americans. Just imagine how the rest of the people on this continent are. Yeah, I don't think the Ottomans were that bad. As far as one can argue Rome. Look at Caesar's Gallic Wars. Yeah, I would argue that Rome was better than everybody that they fought. And that's not saying they were good guys, but I'm just saying, you know, I don't know. I'm definitely not an anti-Roman person. Now, they did a lot of bad shit. Don't get me wrong, you know. But like, you know, I think they were pretty fair. Like, they had slaves, but they took everybody as slaves. They're not like, well, we only want white slaves. Fuck it, they didn't care. They took everybody, you know. And I don't think slaves are a good thing, but I don't know. I don't think that the Romans were any worse than anybody else that they entangled themselves in. The Gauls. The problem with the Gauls is they didn't unite, among other things. But Dacians. I'm gonna have to find out about the Dacians. That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm always willing to learn new shit. You know, I don't have all the answers. I mean, there's some things that I'm inflexible about. Like somebody says, well, you know, communists aren't that bad. I'm not going to listen to a single other thing you say, okay? Communists suck. And there's things as bad as communists, but I'm just saying, you know. You listen to Dan Carlin's? I do. I love him. There's some of his episodes that are better than others. And my favorite episode that he's done, he's actually done two things. The two favorite things that he's done, one of them is really, 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 really long, and one of them is really, really short. The problem I have with Dan Carlin is that sometimes he just takes a long time for the episode to get rolling. But he's a pretty independent viewed person, and I value that a lot. I think that that's important. I actually listened to some of his politics stuff too, back when he did it, and liked his viewpoint on a lot of things. So, but anyhow, back to the history stuff. The World War I, the blueprint for Armageddon is awesome. Because well, it's awesome. I've never enjoyed power washing my driveway as much as I did when I was listening to him do that series. And it's a long one. And then the other one is, which is a really short one, which was better, and you can find it on YouTube. And the title of it is something along the lines of, who had the better military, the World War I Germans or the World War II Germans? And it's as a World War fan, aficionado, I think it's very interesting. It's only like 30 minutes long. It's very cool, the points that he makes. But his Japanese one, World War II Japanese one isn't bad, because I learned a lot of stuff. I'm a World War II fan, but not the Pacific. So I learned a lot of things that I just only knew cursory. Like, I didn't know shit about the MacArthur and the whole Philippine campaign, where they had to leave the Philippines. I didn't know anything about that. So it was, because it just didn't interest me. I was never going to war game it, and I'm not really interested in American history. It's like, I kind of tune out, like, oh, Americans are in that? And it's not that I'm anti-American, but it's almost like I'm already American, so let me learn about some other cultures instead, you know? So, to our legal system. Wonder if Mongols got bad rap because most of what we know is written from the Western perspective. Romans gave us Caesar salads. I don't know. A lot of it is can you relate to the people, you know? There's a guy that, and I think you kind of do this willingly or unwillingly, you know, if you favor one side or the other, or you're not necessarily in real life, because I'm pretty sure none of us are warmongers. We just like history. But if we're going to pick a side to collect or a conflict that we're interested in, you know, we're going to favor the side that we're more familiar with. That's why I always think that another reason that if you're doing Eastern Front stuff, most people that I've experienced gravitate towards playing the Germans as opposed to playing the Russians, because the Germans are more, even though they're freaking dirtbag Nazis, okay, they still have that Western European culture that most of us are used to. Not necessarily that, you know, they're any better than, you know, than the other folks. At least in my experience, that's been what it is. People gravitate towards kind of what they know. You know, Romans have structure, whereas, you know, or more structure, even though maybe corrupt, as opposed to, you know, more tribal thing, you know. He has a good one called Celtic. I didn't love it. I didn't love the Mongol one, and I really didn't like the Persian one. So he's very good. The subject matter just doesn't always interest me. But the World War I one was excellent. The World War II stuff that he's done, like Ghost of the Ostfront, I didn't learn anything there that I didn't already know. I'm a Barbarossa fan, so I've read about a lot of that stuff, and so I always like it when I learn about things that I didn't know, and yeah, so yeah, but I like his stuff. He's very easy to listen to. He was on a show with, they had him on, I don't know how I caught this, because I don't even have HBO, or maybe I had HBO at the time. Who's the little guy that has the show that's, who's the politics show on there? And he was one of the panelists on there, but he didn't let him talk, so it was like, you could have just had anybody. It didn't matter that you had Dan Carlin. God, I hate talking about celebrities, because I can never remember people's names. Anyways, he was on that talk show that, and I forget, you know, which I actually think it's an entertaining talk show, even though I disagree with about 95% of what he says. You enjoyed Ghosts of the Ostfront, yeah. What's that guy's name? Bill Maher. Yeah, I disagree with like 90% of what Bill Maher says. Maybe 85%. But he's very entertaining, and he had Dan Carlin on him, I think twice. But he never let him do anything, you know. And Dan Carlin wasn't trying to be controversial. He was almost kind of like just sitting on the outside trying to talk about things that maybe they had in common with each other. But he never let him really talk, you know. But that's most talk show hosts anyways. It's their show when they're going to run it, and, you know. But at least it was entertaining, you know. Okay. Oh, I already pulled the green out. Man. I'm on a roll. World War II, guy on YouTube called Tick. He is. I found him a couple years ago. Because Tick was a fan of Close Combat, the video game. So I was looking for a Close Combat video game, and he was on there. And the interesting thing about Tick is, he doesn't seem, this is of course my perspective, and he does have some pretty controversial stuff I would think is controversial on there. And it seems like the points that he brings out are really well documented. And I love the stuff that he does on campaigns and stuff, because he'll like put the unit and like a little picture of the commander and stuff. I love all that shit. And it seems like the points that he brings up are really good. Now, if you listen to him for a while, he kind of drones on a little bit with the way his meter is, the way he talks. He always ends every sentence almost in the same way. So it's a little droning, but he brings, I think, interesting points up. And he brings up points, talking points that are counter to what we learned in school, or what we grew up learning about. And I think that's good. It's good to not just assume that what we knew was correct. But he has some controversial stuff on there that goes against the grain of what a lot of people on his channel think, because he gets some pretty, you don't know what the hell you're talking about stuff. But I think he's gone through, I think he's done ample research to it's worth considering his viewpoints. So, I may not agree with 100% of what he says, but yeah, I think I think it's a pretty cool channel. I think it's a pretty cool channel, Tick. Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't use his real name, man. Use your real name. Stop hiding behind a name. Douglas MacArthur wanted to be posted to the Philippines because his daddy had been governor general there. Carlin has an addendum episode on wargaming, but it's mostly online gaming. He is a wargamer. I don't know if he'd be any fun to play with. He seemed, I like Dan Carlin, but he seems like he just needs to lighten up most of the time. He's a little too like somber. I don't know. I'm not. I like to have a little bit more fun than that. I'm not really sure what kind of wargaming he's done, But yeah, I've been listening to him for years. I can't tell the last time I listened to something from him, but Tick stuff is actually really interesting because I think he looks at it from another viewpoint. And the other thing to consider is when I was really into World War II stuff, the Russian archives weren't open. Okay, so we didn't know what the hell they wrote about their stuff. Now, given their story is going to be messed up too, but at least it's a different viewpoint. At least it's a different viewpoint, and you can at least corroborate what the Germans said about an incident and what the Russians said about the same incident, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Because both sides are, dictatorships, and they're kind of trying to cover their own ass. Especially the Russian ones, because their dictatorship didn't fall when they're writing that stuff. Whereas the Germans, at least, are, they're writing stuff after Hitler, and they're like, well, we're just going to make it look like we're the better guys because, we're going to be the allies of the West against the Soviets, So that is something to consider, and I really haven't read much World War II stuff since the fall of the Soviet Union and the opening of those archives. So it's kind of interesting to get that kind of viewpoint that, sometimes puts things on top of its head that, that you're used to hearing. Like, for instance, biggest tank battle on the Eastern Front, right? What is it? Kursk. We all grew up knowing that. Well, Tick brings up the viewpoint that the biggest tank battle is actually in the encirclement of Kiev, and I forget what the name of it is, but it starts with a K. And and it's interesting to see that viewpoint. It's not like I've got some agenda and I'm like, I'm only going to listen to things that reinforce my position. It's good to learn about other stuff. There's a guy who did podcasts on history according to Bob or something like that. I haven't heard about him. Yeah. Another guy I like to listen to, and I haven't listened to him in a long time, and he's kind of an eccentric guy. I think he is. But I think he's like fun eccentric, is Lindy Beige. And Lindy Beige was actually a speaker at one of the Historicons. I didn't get a chance to see him, but there's an episode where Lindy Beige and the chieftain go into a frickin' Churchill, and it's frickin' hilarious. They talk about how tight it is, and and the chieftain, of course, is like all business. And Lindy Beige is mostly non-business. And It was pretty entertaining. It was pretty entertaining. There's a great site for movies and TV shows. Just make sure you have a pop-up blocker enabled. Uncle Joseph Stalin and the Red Army bore the brunt of the fighting in World War II. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. Yep. Here is a great site. Okay, where is it? You know what's good with a pop-up blocker? It seems like your phone's a lot better. You can have problems with your TV, but man, my phone seems to be pretty resilient. I said that, and next time I go to one of those sites, it'll get corrupted. But no, I've never had a problem with them. With the phone. Yeah, Lindy's great. Sometimes seemed like he may have dropped some strong ass in the 70s. Yeah, he needs a date with a comb like there's no tomorrow. But he has a lot of energy. So, like the terrain tutor. You guys all know who the terrain tutor is, right? The terrain tutor is just like a freaking super ball of energy, and he keeps you engaged, and plus he has a great attitude, he has a very positive attitude. So, all that stuff is cool, The other good thing for those of us that are from this side of the pond is Lindy Beige has an accent that's very easy to understand every single thing he says. There's one channel that I just subscribed to within the last couple days that is really good, but I can't understand what he says. I mean, I understand maybe a third, and a lot of it is because mumbling, an extreme accent, and it's not the extreme accent, it's the omission of words. So, just like there's probably people in the United States that you guys across the pond can't understand. Hopefully I'm not one of them. I don't mean to be. But I haven't watched the terrain tutor in a while. I think it went off the air for a little while and came back on. There's nothing I can't fight on that site. What site is that? Oh, hold on. Maybe it got blocked. Because sometimes this thing will block things. I only block people that are trying to push porn. Let's put live chat and see if it got blocked. Let's see. Sometimes it happens. No, I didn't. And Antiochus, it didn't come through. Count yourself lucky. I am not on here. You love the terrain? The terrain tutor. That's how it should be spelled, Wayne. The terrain tutor, as opposed to the terrain steward. My efforts to duplicate some of his project pale in comparison. He has a Woody for using PVA for stuff. I just have no confidence in it. And that's cool, everybody has their preferences. I don't love anything he's done, but did you watch the episode where he did like the coastal hexes with like the freaking that was really freaking cool. Where he did like the cliffs and stuff. That was really neat. That was really, really neat. I mostly get on here and yammer about stuff, but maybe there's something I will bring up that keeps people from going, F it, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do individually painted shields, Because there's stuff I think people have told me they think is really difficult, and I'm like, that's a piece of cake. I'd do hand-painted shields all day long. But you got to plan a little bit. And again, it's something I really enjoy to do. I'm sure somebody out there enjoys cleaning the flash off figures. I detest that. So, hey, maybe there's something you can You could do your own show and show folks something that you do really effortlessly that will keep people from getting discouraged in the hobby. I've heard some people say, it's like, oh, I don't like looking at things on the internet because I'll find out there's people that do things better than me and then I'll be discouraged. And I'm like, I'm encouraged because there's hope. There's hope that you can do things like that because it's just a trick. It's just a freaking trick, and it's just a matter of just having the patience to do it, and just plug along at it. And who knows how long it'll take, but just keep working on it. And you may not finish it in the time that you thought it was going to take, but you just keep plugging away at it. Laugh out loud. Yeah, Flash sucks, yeah. I hate doing Flash. You know? Cleaning up Flash from figures. That's the responsibility of the caster. You know, I know what happens, you know, but that's the one part I don't like. And then priming. That's the two things I dislike the most. Everything else is a walk in the park. It might take a while, but it's all good. It's all good. It was funny seeing if you guys watch my Historicon walkthrough video, it was fun seeing the Little Wars guys there. And I'd seen them before there at the last Historicon I went to, but I'd never filmed them, and they did not like being filmed. Maybe they were concerned that I was going to make a film and then edit it to make them look in a bad light. I don't do shit like that. That's some dishonorable crap. You know, I would never, I couldn't live with myself if I did dishonorable stuff like that. But, you know. Guapo seemed to not mind being on camera, and he did a really good job of explaining what his cool scenario was about. It actually ended up being a game that actually ended up winning one of the awards for how it looked like. So, but just about everybody else from that group was kind of camera shy, but. That's fine. I didn't do it to, you know, oh, famous people. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a groupie. I mean, it's cool that they do it. I'm sure they've gotten a lot of people involved in the hobby, and they put on some great productions. They spend a hell of a lot of time editing videos, a hell of a lot of time. Whoever's editing the videos isn't doing a lot of painting, let's put it that way. But yeah, it shows you don't have to be Michelangelo. You built Russian Napoleonics era redoubts based on one of Terrain Tutor's videos on gun emplacements. There you go. Sometimes, and I don't have this problem necessarily with hobby stuff. I mean, I do. I think all of us do run into creative blocks. You know, like you get stuck on something and you can't think your way around it. But like writing, like I hate writing. I really detest writing. And most of it is because of organization. It's not because I'm not good at spelling or making sentences. It's just you get in this block, like I don't know where to begin. And you watch something like the Terrain Tutor, and you get to see some of the steps that he's just like, you do this and you do that and you do that. And then you find, oh, that's my starting point. That's how I get rolling with it, you know? So those kind of videos are really good. Built Russian and a mess spray primer. Do you use zenithal highlights over your black prime miniatures? I don't. What did I buy at Historicon? Oh, I did a video on that. Essex figures. I bought some Essex medieval Spanish. I got some Essex figures for the Kingdom of Granada. They were there, and I could sort through the figures. What else did I get? Tufts. And I got some animals. I picked up a tiger, some dogs, and a heffalump from Irregular Miniatures that was there with Silver Eagle War Game Supplies. They carried them. I think that was it. Ooh! I got this. I couldn't pass this up. Where is it? Here it is. I had to get this because I do live videos. Oh, it'd be nice if I showed it to you. There you go. I couldn't pass getting that. It's like, that's so appropriate. I don't like wearing offensive things that involve cussing. I figure I can do my own cussing. I don't need my wardrobe to do it for me. I have seen Little Wars Pyrrhus campaign, and I have to tell you I was a little disappointed. It focused a lot on what I didn't think it was going to focus on. But it doesn't mean their production isn't awesome. It doesn't mean that their board isn't awesome. That board is freaking awesome. The first episode, and you got to understand, I love Pyrrhus shit, okay? He's my favorite Greek. So, how bad are the Irregular? They're a mixed bag. I have a couple of Irregular figures that are pretty awesome looking. But you have to look at them and go, this guy would work with this guy would work with that. The animals are okay. The elephant's really good. Are they here? Are they handy? I'll show them to you if they're handy. I have an Irregular figure. Let me give you. He's in my Turk army. And I actually modified him. I'm not sure what line he's from, but he's the guy that's a flag bearer in this army. And it is an Irregular figure, and when you look at him, you're like, I don't know if this guy's going to work out. And he worked out. Well, I really like how he turned out. And the flag bearer is an Irregular figure. But then I really get a kick out of taking figures that are second or third tier and giving them their place in the sun. So he actually turned out pretty good. They're kind of a mixed bag. They have problems with hands. They have problems with consistent things. You know, there's some things that are supposed to be really detailed. And like, for instance, this stand in particular, this is a museum figure, a roundway, and the guys we were just talking about, Regular, all on there. So, yeah, just about anybody makes figures that are worth painting. Honestly, they really are. And it actually looks better in person than you saw in the video. The video, for whatever reason, just, I don't know. It adds noise. You know, it adds noise that's not really there. I don't know if that's maybe the best way to describe it, but that's why I love going somewhere and seeing, actually looking at the figures, because you know, I love mixing stuff out. Now, those, you can't compare them to these Forged in Battle guys, which are just absolutely gorgeous. Or the cobblestone casting wolves. These things are freaking beautiful. You know, they look like Citadel figures. You know, they look as good as the 28mm one. You know, they look better actually. This guy needs to be fed a little bit. Yes, I have one 28mm figure. That's it. I don't even know why I painted that when I was probably in high school. You know, you're not a fan of Lancashire games. You know, the ones that I've seen online, they don't look very good. You know, you can't encounter them here in the States. Nobody has them, but I'm sure I might find somebody in there looks okay. The QRF, the 15 millimeter QRFs that I got online, they don't look so good. Man, they painted up friggin', I think they paint up great. I've got my Irish Cavalry by them. Would that be my Mick Cavalry? And it's all one pose too. So when something's like second, or when you don't think much of the manufacturer and they only make one pose and you're really happy with how they turn out, I think that's saying something. These are all one pose. Let's get the zoom function here. All right, now let's move this. These guys are all one pose. And it's a pretty unexciting figure because, first of all, they don't have any cool armor. By God, they're barefoot. But they have a face that actually paints up pretty well. And I was really happy with them. Even the leader's even the leader and the other guy, these guys are also 15 millimeter QRF. They painted up okay. The leader has some questionable facial structures. You know, old Odago, which we found out by intensive search, is actually a Thistle and Rose figure that I got in a grab bag a few years ago. The great Odago. And I was really hesitant to do a pink cloak for the general, but I saw it come up several times and it frickin' works because there's some pinkish type hues in the flag, so it kind of ties all that in together. The flag, of course, is Little Big Man Studios. Irish Cavalry would be infantry, surely. I can say it as I'm Irish. I'm getting white paint on my keyboard, painting Austrian Kaross and typing. Help! Yeah, so, you know, these second-tier figures actually paint up okay. Yeah, you're going to buy QRF Salusa cataphracts for all their ancients not in the shop. Yeah, they need to get their ball together. They released like all the stuff that I think they wouldn't sell. Like, who's buying Paraguayan war stuff? I actually read a little bit about that this week. I'm like, I didn't know anything about that. You know? Like, I heard of it. I don't know who won. Well, I know now. But hey, I'm not going to tell people how to run their business. I can just tell you what I think most people are interested in. The only oddball stuff that they have there, I think that would be really cool would be the, what do they call it? The Maximilian Adventure. That could be interesting. My stepmom is from Puebla, so she'd probably get a kick out of that. But I don't know how those figures look in person. They look, as you guys say over there, a bit dodgy. You know, they paint okay, but I think they're all like one pose in a pack, so don't know if that'd go over really well in a skirmish game. As I'm thinking of doing Victorian stuff in 15 millimeter skirmish with blood and steel or something like that. Something small scale, something you can have fun with. How thick are my bases in millimeters? 3. They're only size that Litco made at the time, and now they make the 1.5s, and I like the thicker bases. The thicker bases allow a greater chance of you moving the stand by the base and not by the figure, and thereby not damaging it. And especially with some figures that actually have weak bases, it's kind of important, because the magnets I use are pretty strong. And one of Dracula's light horse stands is actually pretty weak. I got to be careful to make sure I grab them always by the base. So, do I like the way thinner bases look? Sometimes. These are playing pieces, so I don't mind that they look like a playing piece. I'm not trying to build a diorama. You know, some people prefer thin metal ones. I don't like metal ones. I think that the sharp corners is going to be easy for the paint to rub off of them, and I'm constantly having to repair it. I'm happy with the 3 mils, and I'm also happy that other people do different basing systems than I do, and they're perfectly happy with it. So I'm not into, unlike the loon that was yelling at Historicon in the square. There's always some issue in that town square. There's always some crier in the square. This time I went out there and somebody was like, "We're all gonna go to hell," and okay, whatever. I don't feel the need to save anybody. That's not my crusade in life. People on crusades, that's what it is. I'm not on a crusade. You guys want to paint a different way, different scales, different periods? Go right ahead. I have no problem with it. Yeah, last time there was like a big protest. They were protesting who knows what in the middle of Historicon. I'm sure they felt they made a difference. I didn't bother to worry about what they were protesting, so. What quantity are the bags of Litco bases sold? So I think they make 10s, 25s, 50s, and 100s. And my order should be coming in soon, like today or something like that. But you can build them in whatever size you want. The funny thing is that the bases that are half the thickness, the 1.5s, which are relatively new. They've only been around, I want to say 4 or 5 years, which to me seems relatively new. They're actually more expensive than the thicker ones. It must take, they must do something in there so they don't warp. But they're they're little plywood bases as well. You do 3 mil plus 3 mil MDF on the bottom, so mine are 6, but I also mass base for Big Battle DBA. Well, there you go. They probably look great. Honestly, one thing I considered that would be really cool, I considered it because I like to think about it, not that I'm going to do it, is use 15 millimeter basing, but use 6 millimeter figures. And then you get like the Big Battle look with, I think that would be cool. But unless you plan on supplying the stuff for both sides, you kind of have to go with a standard basing, or at least go with what people are basing most of your armies for. And that's what drew me to DBA in the first place. Not because it was Ancients. I know shit about Ancients. I'd never even played Ancients before. Or Medievals. Never played them either. It was that I have to supply my own troops for a game, and I'm relatively close to them, and other people don't ham-fist my figures, and I have to worry about them getting destroyed. All issues which I've had in the past. So, if you're going to destroy my figures when I play a game, that's a really not a big incentive for me to continue building more figures, And most people, that isn't the case. It's not like that's a common thing. But when it happens, you're like, why am I even in this hobby? It's causing me all this stress. So that's the big draw for me. It's not tournament play. I actually had never played a tournament game before DBA, ever. I just want to play with my own stuff, which gives me incentive to get more of it. And there's not a ton of them, which means, if you have to paint a ton of Mongols, you're burned out, before you're ever done with the army. Here it's like, okay, I'll paint some Mongols, now I'll paint some Romans, then I'll paint some, medieval knights, then I'll paint, Assyrians, something that's totally different. Would the game look better with more figures? Absolutely, but I'd rather paint more different stuff than paint a lot of the same thing, if that makes any sense. And that's why I've stuck with it despite the headaches it's given me with the way the rules are organized. Do I wish they had more detail? You bet I wish they had more detail. But you spend too much time in these rules figuring out how to get into combat with the other guy. All the conforming crap just takes up way too much of your mental calories. You know, it should be easier before you can save some of that time and use that for maybe more detailed results in the combat. Love Litco, but recently started getting Sarissa MDF1, even with postage from the UK to Virginia. They're like half the price. And there was two vendors in particular that had MDF basing. And that was a Phalanx Consortium, at Historicon I meant. Phalanx Consortium and the people that had all the Battlefront stuff. But I'm too far along to not get Litco stuff, you know. So it's too late, you know. And I just so happened that when I got into DBA, one of the vendors at our local show happened to have Litco bases with magnets already on them. I mean, not already on them, but they sold the magnets also. So had they not done that, who knows what I would have done. Make my own bases, who knows. Actually, that's exactly what I would have done because I have some old Armati stuff and I didn't have bases for that. The first figures I painted in 15 mil back in the mid to late 90s were figures for Armati, because that's actually the game I showed up to play, and nobody was playing it. I'll do a quick look and see if I can find them. And they were just cut out of basswood. Here they are right here. That's the only reason I got into Litco, is they just happened to have them at the show. So these are thin. I even wrote on here, light and skirmish, 40 by 20. What else? I was doing intro Armati. So you had a unit of pikemen on a 40 by 15. But that one you could actually back itself up. So that you could do your unit like that or like this. So this is 20 by 15. 2 pikemen. What else we got in here? A couple light horse. One of them broke off. Sword and bucklerman. Artillery piece. Dusty. The old shitty basing that we used to do from the 1990s because we didn't know any better. We didn't have the internet. Got a deal for the proprietor of War Games Accessories, metal bases. He's an old friend. Yeah. My blade and spear bases have 30 figures on them now. 40. Cab had 12. Light horse 8. Yeah. So these were all made out of basswood. Probably about 1996. Scott's a fan of metal bases. I'm not converting everything over. I am not. I always like to kid him. I can play on my refrigerator whenever I want to. I can play vertically on my refrigerator. Hey, there might be one time where I may need to do that. Battle of the Icebox. All right, what do we got left on this clown? Oh, we got more of this color to do? Cool. And then the reins, hooves, and we're done with him. We're done with this clown. So that's why I got into Litco. It's just coincidence, you know? Woodland Scenics Turf. Yeah, that's what it was all about. I'm telling you, the internet is really, I mean, the internet is awesome for a hobby. You know, I would never put tufts on my stands. I didn't know about them. You know, you see other people like, I really like how that looks. What did you do? Okay, why are you so wet? Still, it's too dry here. All right. Want to be difficult? Let's be difficult. Paint on cardboard, the anti-wet palette. Yeah, it's still super watery. I don't understand why. You were lively and spunky in 1996, weren't we all? I would have been 25. And I was still working in the place where I'm working now. We drove through Richmond. It was a zoo. We drove through. Last Historicon, not this trip, but the last time we went, what was it, in 2019? We went through there. We were trying to look for in Fort Lee, where they supposedly are moving all the tanks to, or the vast majority of them that used to be at Aberdeen, which I never got a chance to see. But they hadn't. We were all over that base, and we couldn't find them. I think they're. I have a feeling that they're not going to be open to the public, so I missed my opportunity to point out where all the wrong tow hooks were on them. Do I have a 401k plan? Yes, but don't tell me what it's done. I don't want to know. Yes, I do. Yep, I'm not walking away from. I'm not walking away from that match. Yeah, I don't look at the stocks. It's just painful then. There's no point in worrying about it too much. You know, that money may not be there. You could worry about shit and then die of cancer and you never get to it. I just forget it's there. You know, you put in and it automatically deducts it. It's kind of on autopilot, and there's some people that have retired and don't have one of those, so I think I'll do okay with it. And I don't live a crazy life where I need. Hell, I won't need any more lead. I've got it all. Just paint everything you have. What'd the 401k have to do with anything, though? I think everybody should have one. If they work at a place that contributes, you can't walk away from that match. You can't walk away from that match. It's stupid too. So, and who knows if that money will be around in 20 years, but. It's auto-deducted and I don't worry about it, and it's just better that way. I don't think I'm going to be one of those people that's got to work a part-time job to not be bored. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think we all have enough of things to do. How many armies does Tony have figs for still to paint? Complete? Probably 30. I could probably do 30 armies with the lead that I have. I'm just guessing. Best I can do is about 3 armies a year. Just can't get more done than that. It just isn't going to happen. And that's really pushing it. Somewhere between 2 and 3 is probably more realistic, but I'm not a quantity person. But every year it seems like I'm painting more and more than I did the previous one, so definitely on the right track. There's just stuff I just don't enjoy as much as I used to. Mainly video gaming. I say watching television, but I don't know if I've ever really enjoyed watching television. It's just not very interactive. Someone's like, man, how do you get so much stuff painted? I said, well, I don't watch sports. How much time do people watch being plugged into the freaking sports on TV and they're not doing a damn thing? You know? Except yelling at it. All that time you guys are doing on that, I'm not doing any of it. Is it supposed to be a rainy day? I don't care, let it rain. And keep the temperature down. Joe, you decide you were going to you're going to play the ship game in that first session on Saturday? I'm telling you, you need to run the ship game. You need to run the ship game somewhere with us, and I'll film it. I don't know if anybody will enjoy it. I'll enjoy it. I like Sea Creek 5. I'm a rivet head. Been watching Bosch. Find the shows quite good. I want to say I've seen part of an episode of one. You admire folks that can watch TV and paint minis at the same time. I wish I could. You know, I'm not a person that, maybe it's a personality thing. I can't have the TV on and going and I'm not watching it. Like in the background noise. And I've lived alone for 11 years before. The TV's not on if I'm not watching it. I don't have a light on the other side of the house if I'm not over there. That's how I am. And it's not being frugal. It's just, you know, how I am. Well, it's stupid to have a light on over there. For what? For the roaches? But, yeah, I can't watch. I can't have something on and not pay attention to it. The closest thing I can do is take this camera and put it in front of my face, like right here, because, you know, I can't see shit right now because I'm nearsighted as hell. And have something like right here, but still it's just too distracting and the paint's going to dry on my paintbrush. So I'm not a good multitasker when it comes to that. Now I can do Audible books, you know. But lately I haven't been into them much, and I think I'm going to cancel my subscription for a little while. Of course, the problem with canceling your Audible subscription is you need to pick stuff on your credits, because if you cancel it, then those get disappeared. As unfair as that seems, like I'd be perfectly happy just hold on to my 6 credits or whatever I have. I think I got like 7 or something like that. Just hold on to them. I'll be back. And but no, you got to already pick the stuff. So the problem is you come back and then you don't have any credits again. You know, so I may just have to pick a few things, and I may cancel that for a while. Sometimes watch Waterloo when painting Napoleonics, or Hornblower when I'm working on Black Sea's Fleet for inspiration. All other programs are only distracting. Is Black Seas a warlord thing? I played one naval miniatures sailing ship game once, and I absolutely hated it. I don't like the fact that every ship basically looks like every other ship, other than how many guns are on it. A friend of mine created a set of rules. It's really detailed, supposed to be really accurate, but it just wasn't any fun. The same deal credit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just buy something and not listen to it, you know. I may stop it for a little while. But I got like 6 things I got to pick, so. And you come back and you don't have any credits. Well, you'd have 1. So I don't listen to it while I paint. I'm doing this while I paint. Which, look, how long have we been on here? 2.5 hours? There's no way I would have been doing this for 2.5 hours with Audible. There's no way. So I do this. Hopefully you guys are entertained as well. I do it so I can stay on track. And it doesn't matter. You ask me, hey, what about this? And I go look at my figures because, yes, it's a distraction, but I'm still here, you know, as opposed to going and playing that video game I was telling you I was going to do, which I may or may not do. There's one video game that I kickstarted. I don't know. I signed up for it before it was out. What is it? Early version or whatever of it is. And I'd never done that with a video game before. Ever. And it's a really cool game. It's actually a naval game called Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. And you get to build your ships and everything. But I swear it's got so many freaking bugs in it. You just want your guys to go one way and they start breaking off in different formations just without even them being damaged. It's just really frustrated. But it's beautiful. But you could make your own ships, and they got like a campaign game mode where, you know, I was playing some of that last night. I'm like, you could play, you could pick your year to start off with. So I think I started as early as possible, like 1890. And it's extremely time consuming. And then sometimes the battles just go on way too long. You can't speed them up, you know. Thoughts on 3D resin printing? Well, I've only had one experience with it, and it was extremely positive. I will never do any of it by myself. I don't have the personality type for shit to go wrong all the time in my hobby. Because the painting part never goes wrong. It never does. And if it does, I fix it. Oh, that guy doesn't look good with a red whatever. So you repaint it. But the resin printing, it reminds me of the first year I took computer-aided drafting. And it was just so hard to, you know, I did my final exam and my computer crashed and everything went to hell and I basically had to take the class again. So I'm doing something that takes a hell of a long time to get finished. But you know what? Every day it builds upon what I did the previous day. Not like, it's gone. Well, where I start? Oh, at the beginning. Oh, hell no. You know, you need like a whole stack of pencils just so you can break them when shit like that happens. I don't have the personality type for that. Now, I have bought resin stuff from folks, and it's amazing. It is really, really amazing. I'm not sure if I can get a good feel of how durable it is, because I'm extremely careful around it. But I've painted some resin stuff, and it's really nice. The castings on it is really, really good. So hopefully it'll fill the gap between things that are made and not put traditional miniature companies out of business, because I'm interested in it only for getting weird stuff, not to get a better deal or to lower the price on what I'm already doing. If that makes any sense. I'm not in it for like, you know, there's these guys that show up to our show in Florida, or used to, and they're selling resin printers. And well, first of all, I'm not buying one, because where are they all made? That's right. They're made in that country that I'm not going to buy anything from, or I'm going to try not to buy something from. So I'm not buying one. I guess technically, if I'm buying it from somebody else that casts himself, I'm kind of an enabler, but I can live with that. All right, that doesn't bother me as much, but it's going to cause frustration for me to do it. And it's kind of a shame, because I am kind of a CAD type person, so I could get into it, but I can't be into everything, As much as I like gaming, I enjoy painting more than gaming. So I don't need 100 Tiger 1s to paint, Hell, I can't even get one painted. Why the hell do I need 99 more, So it would just be cool to get things that aren't normally available. So the two things that I got is I got a throne for my Pope to sit on. It's 3D printed. Really nice, along with some other stuff. And the lawn ornaments for Dracula, the impaled victims, which are impaled correctly. Not just because somebody makes impaled victims. It might be Donington, but they're impaled like this through the midsection, not rectally, as is supposedly how they were done. So let me put my Irish back. That's why I had that gap in my thing. And I'll bring them here since I'm getting up anyways. So I like it. Now, hopefully it doesn't put traditional miniature manufacturing companies out of business, or makes them turn to plastic crap. Because one thing they don't have is heft. They don't have any heft at all. Which is, the only good part about that is that if something falls on the ground, it doesn't have enough weight to really damage itself. But at the same time, it's almost not heavy enough to be magnetized. So here's the Pope's throne. And both of these are made by the same company called, I think it's Dungeon Torch. I got an unboxing video on both of these things. So that's the Pope's throne. And then here's the impaled victims for Vlad. And they actually painted really well. They painted up really well. And they're not flexible much. So not worried about paint flaking off of them. As a matter of fact, how did I seal these guys? I may have sealed them with a water-based thing. But I'm really happy with how these guys turned out. And they came like, I had one guy left over. Well, I based it in black, but it's this color. So they're relatively inexpensive. Like these guys were like, I want to say like $15 and $10 to ship them to you. They might have been $10 and $10 to ship them to you. They're relatively inexpensive. So I like it. I just don't want to do any of it myself, because I can't do everything, so let the people that are really good at that do that. paint them. I always get a kick out of it. Maybe the guys that are really like experts at doing this resin stuff. Maybe they don't know how to paint. And I'm like, dude, the painting part's easy. Or maybe I think it's easy because I've been doing it for 35 years. 35 years? Over 35 years. But only worth a damn in the last 20. 20, maybe 25. My World War II guys still look good. And they were done somewhere around 96, 97. Their basing sucks on them, but we didn't have the internet to share that information for everybody. You know, we didn't have the terrain tutor and stuff like that. All right, we have the horsehair to do. And, we got to do eyes on the horse. They made them bulgy. I got to do the eyes. You end up covering most of the white anyways, but. We need a new one here. Riverboat. Yeah, I don't want to have some great print, go to work, figure, all right, I get home and I'll be able to paint it. And then what I didn't know is at 9:30 in the morning, the print went bad. And it went sideways. And now I wasted a shitload of material. And worse than all, I have the rug pulled out from me when I get home. I don't need that in my life, you know? I don't need that kind of frustration in my life. So I have no plans to ever do any 3D printing. But I fully support it. There's people that are really good at that. Let them do that. Now we'll take the black and cover up most of it with that vertical line. But I want it for unusual things, not for mass quantity. Oh, I need 100 tanks. No. I don't need to have that many things. And I don't want them to put traditional miniatures out of business. You know, I mean, just this last year, how many miniature companies have we basically lost? I don't know if, well, not in the last couple of years, but about 5 years ago, the Lane Tulare figures aren't made anymore. The guy that was trading in Roundway stuff has disappeared off the face of the earth. The guy that was doing the Legio Heroica, he passed away, and his family, I think, is continuing, but I don't know if that's gone forward or not. The guy that does Outpost War Game Services has basically had health issues and closed up shop. You know, we don't need any more reasons for those people to go out of business. The Forged in Battle figures are from the same sculptor who did the original Old Glory 15 ranges. He sure has improved his skills. You sure? Not my hero guy that started. You mean the other Old Glory 15 guy? The guy who did, well, they scaled perfectly. Let's see. Where's my Byzantines, damn it? This guy. I actually have a lot of his stuff. The cheekbone guy, not my hero. Not Dave Also, the cheekbone guy. I got a word with him. I have a word with him. Is he? What's his name? Yeah, these guys have all these like massive cheekbones. You know, this guy almost looks like a dwarf. Now, a lot better than I would do. But I'm not claiming to be a sculptor, nor do I have any interest in being one. Yeah, is it that? What's his name? Andy Cooper. Okay. Well, I have a lot of his figures. Yeah, they're definitely better. He's improved his faces, okay? I've never had a problem with anything other than his faces. Now, Old Glory is kind of... I don't really know what the history of Old Cheekbone Guy, yeah. Yeah, I wish he didn't have the cheekbone issue. And he's got bulging eyes, too. So it reminds me of that scene. Remember the old Total Recall where Arnold goes and he's on Mars and he can't breathe? Yeah, that look that he has. So when you think of cheekbones, think of, Arnold with the on Mars. Yeah. I've got lots of his stuff. I didn't know that was the same guy. I'm taking your word for it. Don't lead me astray, man. Don't lead me astray. I was led astray by an Antiochus. Yeah, I have lots of his stuff. My whole army of... all my Romans are. Right? All my Romans, my Polybian Romans are his. And... my Polybians, my Marians, my early Armenians, they're all exclusively Old Glory 15s. So, yeah. Andy Cooper. Well, he's no Dave Alsop, but he'll do. These things are great. So, yeah, I actually had a wild hair up my ass. I figured if I did some skirmish gaming in 15 mil, and everybody like, what are you doing skirmish gaming in 15s? I don't paint 28s. They take too long. I'm not even going to go there. I get to paint all of Dave Alsop's, like many of his castings that I've never painted because they're of another period. So God, I could do American Civil War. I don't know about doing American Civil War. I may get thrown out of somewhere if I play Confederates. It'd get annoying with all the accents, but we were doing some stand-up on the way back from Historicon this last trip with all kinds of different Confederate voices, and it was hilarious. But anyways, all of the Old Glory 15 mil American Civil War stuff, or 90% of it is, because there's a couple of packs you could tell are not Dave Alsop stuff, but I recognize his style immediately. Is his poses and the way he does his hands and his rifles are very, very well. They look like his 20s, which are my favorite figures on the planet. The old combat miniatures guys. His 15s look the same way. So maybe. And I only have to paint like 20 and then play a game, I don't have to paint hundreds. And I can base them individually. Like, okay, I got 3 guys done, and put them on pennies. I'd probably do Litgo size penny stands, because the problem with the pennies is the paint doesn't stick to them great. They make penny sized Litgo magnets. Okay. I digress. I digressificate. Hoof time. But yeah, I love Dave Alsop's stuff because some of the stuff that he sculpts almost looks like an oil painting. It almost, I don't know, it just reminds me of oil paintings that I like. Not every oil painting is something that I like, but just reminds me of a look. So, but yeah, these Forged in Battles are, superb. Superb. Okay. Where did the hoof color go? It's got to be this one. Yep. And then we got to do the horse mane. What would you use as a core color? I think we do chocolate brown. The leather one will work. We're going to make it really, really dark and modify it from there. And then we can go spray these 6 figures. That's when we'll sign off. And we may be back on later, but that's when we'll sign off because we need the stuff to dry and do some basing. Yeah, the 15 mils that Mitch has for his Napoleonics, his minifigs are really, 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 really small. They're proportioned well. It's not like they're weird proportions. They're nice figures. They're just very small by... And a lot of their details are kind of quaint. They're not like overly done hands or rifles or things like that. The transition between the gun barrel and the bayonet is very mild. It's not extremely defined how we're used to. And which might make it a little bit of a challenge to paint him, but he has tons of those that he had painted by who knows who. I forget if he ever told me who painted them, but I'm sure they're from 40 years ago. And here in Florida, we used to have the big distributor for minifigs here in the United States called Modeler's Mart. I only got a chance to go there a couple times, but that place was just packed to the brim with stuff. It was actually really well organized, I remember. And unfortunately, it still wouldn't be around. Otherwise, I'd take trips to go down to it. I mean, I loved going on road trips to go buy figures. The road trip adventure. We used to do that in the mid and the late 90s. All the time. Let's go to Tampa and go to Emperor's Headquarters or Modeler's Mart. Back when you go to Jacksonville too. My dad used to work in Jacksonville. Oh, let's go buy Xenos. See what they have there, you know. Of course, at that time, I was only into 1/2400 scale naval. And they carried CNC stuff, so. Kicking it like it's 1987. That's what I used to do when I was a kid, young adult. Get the phone book out. Oh, we're going to a new town. Let's find out where the hobby stores are. And see what was there. And you get butterflies in your stomach because, you know, you couldn't mail order things back then, or you could, but you had to send them a check. What the hell's that, you know? The hell's a check? Minifigs 15mm, the miniatures that started with in the 80s. There's Napoleonic Rules came out in 2014 that was pretty good. Was interested in them, but they disappeared almost immediately. It was a Spanish company that produced them. There's a company in Spain, I don't remember what the name of it is, but they made Napoleonics, and they also made a limited amount of Ancients. And I want to say they've been produced by somebody else now. That Campaign Game Miniatures or something like that. I don't remember what the hell they were called, but they made like Alexander. They made Alexander's army, Julius Caesar's army, and like the Carthaginians, and maybe like Scipio's army. They only made those 4, I think, and they were Anthony Barton looking figures. The figures looked like they were done by AB, so they were realistically proportioned. Non-dominant faces, nicely sculpted figures, and yeah, they disappeared. Oh, Fantasin was the name of the company. Fantasin. And they also had some 20 millimeter World War II figures as well. And I don't know who picked them up, but I think somebody still makes them. And that may be who you're thinking about, because there's not that many Spanish companies that do wargaming. Wargaming stuff is basically the UK, and then the US, and Italy has a few. Actually, both Italian ones I'm particularly fond of. International money orders to the UK. Yeah, I'm glad we're past that. We're living the golden age for that right now. We really do. Lots of other things aren't so good, but that's the golden age for that for getting minis. And watching people unbox stuff and I wonder what's in the box, and I mentioned this earlier that actually the way things are now is I'm less tempted to buy things, because it used to be you'd be like, I wonder what comes in this pack. So you'd freaking order something that you didn't need just to see, well, I've done it, just to see what they look like. They made their own nap figures too, yeah. Yeah, Fantasin. I don't know what happened to Fantasin. The figures look good. They look like AB figures. They weren't weird poses, and I don't know what happened to them. The Brits called and said, "You can't have any figure manufacturers in Spain." Oh, right. And they closed up shop. No, I think they got picked up by somebody else. Who that is, I have no idea. You have some too. Yeah, they look good on the internet. I ordered something from Spain one time. That was a mistake. Basically, the shipping from the UK, even now, is reasonable. Everywhere else in Europe, especially Spain and Italy, is just like they're going to rape you. And it's always been that way. Not always been that way, but, it's not because of Brexit. It's just always been. It's just, I remember getting a $50 book from Spain, and it was $50 to ship it. It's like $100 for a $50 book. And what was worse than that? When I got the book, it wasn't useful. And the artwork in it honestly sucks. That game had real potential. What was it called? Well, I've had some fun playing some DBN games, but I'm going to admit, Napoleonics is not my religion, unlike World War II. And because of that, I'm fine with some things being dumbed down, because I don't know any better. Okay, I'm basically an ignoramus when it comes to Napoleonic stuff. I wouldn't be able to tolerate it if it was World War II. Oh, light tank. Yeah, the Chaffee, Stuart, T-60, Panzer II, they're all the same in the game. Oh, fuck you. We're not doing that. We're going to fight now. So it's not my period. So, I wouldn't be able to, if I was a Napoleonics fan, there's no way I'd play DBN. It's just way too basic and dumbed down for me, Napoleon at War. Hang on a second. I'll tell you, they also carry the old War Modeling Ancients. Maybe that was the name of it, of the company. War Modeling. When you don't come up with a name that's very distinct, it's easy to forget who the hell you're talking about. And War Modeling would not be a very distinct name, in my opinion. Yeah, they did disappear. Stonewall. I heard there was some kind of controversy with Stonewall. I don't want to add fuel to the fire. I honestly don't know, but I did hear that. There was some controversy about somebody using somebody else's figures. They had remade them, and Stonewall's name came up in it. I'm not sure if they're the party that was abused or the ones that were supposedly the abuser. But Because Stonewall, the reason I know Stonewall, I've never ordered from them, but Stonewall actually, I think, are the last people that carry the combat miniatures in 20 mil. And if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at getting any in, 20 years, so I don't know, but I just kind of heard through the grapevine that was Stonewall carries both ranges now. Okay. What World War II rules do I like? Honestly, if I'm going to do World War II, I'm going to do skirmish. And there's a set of rules that I got about around 2001 called, and they're all out of print now, called The Face of Battle. And we really like those. But it's skirmish to like run a squad or something like that. Have a couple of vehicles on a side. It's not like you run a whole company. Well, that's not a skirmish thing. Not moving guys individually when you're the company commander, So, but they're out of print. I definitely like, I like the skirmish because it gives me the details on, the way I describe it is I like to play World War II rules that matter where the grenade lands. Okay, so if you look at that from if you look at it from the standpoint, what do your World War II rules need to have? They need to have a thing where you throw the grenade and it doesn't land where you want it to, and you have to calculate the blast radius based on that. So yes, they're very slow, they're very anal retentive, but that's what I like in them. So, which basically means you can't run them at cons. They're also known as Capitan, the old fantasy and war modeling. Capitan. They look good on the internet. But everybody has their preferences. Maybe they didn't sell well. I don't know. Some people like things I don't like, and that's fine. I don't have to convert them. Like I said, the figures that were very popular, and I never cared for them, was Corvus Belli. Lots of people were fans of them. I wasn't one of those. Doesn't say I wouldn't paint any. I've got some. I picked up at a flea market. I've got some 100 Years War figures from them that they'll work their way into one of the stands, but they had awkward poses, and I didn't care for the sculpting style a whole lot. That doesn't mean they were bad figures. It's more like I didn't care for their sculpting style / poses. It wasn't that they were poorly done, because that would be unfair. Have I tried nuts? I've watched a couple videos on it, and it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me. I watched a couple videos of the play. I think nuts has it's too card intensive. Isn't nuts where you have to do the resolution and you pull a card and you see what's written on the card? And I do not like that. I like dice games. I mentioned that a couple days ago about why I did not like the combat commander that uses that mechanism. I detest that mechanism, actually. I just don't think that you're going to get a good card shuffle. A card shuffle does not equal a die roll. A die roll is much better randomization. And I hate shuffling cards. And I'm not good at it. And I've watched videos and I'm still not good at it. Apparently Stonewall does have license to sell them. They were being sued by the original sculptor. Yeah, I don't know I'm not picking sides. I had heard something about that. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't like lawsuit stuff. Only people like Wayne win those. I think we should go back to doing duels. Settling things by duels, not lawsuits. I'll be right back. still have a bit of that lingering headache. I thought nuts was lots of dice rolls, maybe not. I could be wrong. I want to say that they had an interesting card. There wasn't enough die rolling. So I come from a background of percentile dice. So that's what I'm used to. So I started playing DBA. I'm like, 1d6? That's stupid. I mean, right off the bat, I'm like, it's freaking stupid. It's just not enough options for it. And, I've learned to deal with it and unclench, and I'm okay with it now. But a 1d6 is still better than 2d6. I hate the ASL. Even though I played many years of Advanced Squad Leader, I hate the bell curve. It's hard to figure out percentages and stuff. Okay, so here are the 6 folks that are going to be on their way to go get sprayed recently. And I don't care if it's raining or not. That doesn't affect my spray schedule. I even did a video how I spray, and I've never had an issue with it. And normally I would say I'm not going to run my mouth about it, but I am, because I've never had a problem with it. I think you guys are just people that have it spray it too thick. So, oh my God, I can't believe I did forget something. I didn't put his mustache. I didn't shade his mustache, this barbarian dude. Well, I'm not going to pull out the wet palette for that. We'll just use this right here. We'll put it right here on the corner. It's kind of what we used to do, except it was a tile. What was the name of that company you said? Capitan? Stonewall. I'll look at. That's the other thing I gotta look up. It's funny. They have expanded. If I remember correctly, they did have the rights last time I checked to do the combat miniatures. They've so-called expanded their lines from other stuff that Dave Alsop did not cast, did not sculpt. And it's not compatible at all. They're almost like more like the FAA stuff, which I am not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the style that the FAAs are done in. All right, we'll let that guy just dry and a little bit, and then we'll go spray them. And do I use washes? Absolutely not. I used to. But I just don't find they're controlled. I use time. Cardboard box used for priming. No, I spray on a clipboard. I spray on a clipboard. Works pretty good. I got a video on how I do it. So we're gonna spray these guys, and then we'll spray gloss. Then we'll brush on this stuff. We'll let them dry. We're gonna glue them on a stand. Well, we're gonna pick the 2 that we're gonna glue on a stand. Glue them, goop them, and I'll be back when the goop is dry and we can try experimenting with some basing and hopefully get the first stand done so we can see what the hell these guys look like together. And I'm not really sure. This guy's got to go with, well, not the guy with a bow. It's just going to be a javelin guy. Maybe I'll put him with the original one. The one I did first. Maybe these 2 go hang out together. So, okay. As always, thanks for stopping by, folks. This is over a 3-hour session here. So, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see when I'm back on. Just like Wayne, you could beat Wayne to the punch and be the first person here. Wayne, as always, thanks for coming by. And, yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Hopefully in a few hours. Hopefully in... I only got to base 1 guy, so that should dry in about 6 p.m.